So I want to begin by thanking everybody for joining us today. We today are unveiling our new Slow Streets program. It's something that's been in the works for quite a while, almost 3 weeks now. As you all know, 3 weeks ago, we closed all of the city parks, and we still encourage people to get out and walk, but we wanted to eliminate as much as possible the places where people could congregate, especially during this 3-week stretch that we just went through. All of the models that we were looking at and all of the models that we were following were telling us that Rhode Island was going to reach its peak, and it surged somewhere around these 3 weeks. So we wanted to make sure that we were proactive and aggressive to make sure that folks weren't congregating in different places. Also, we knew that as we were approaching our peak, we didn't have all of the figures and numbers, but we did have a hunch and we did have a sense that has since become much clearer that there's a concentration of COVID positive cases here in Providence. And as we've seen, there's an extra concentration in the Latino community. And so for all of those reasons, we wanted to make sure that we were very aggressive and did whatever we could to make sure that we would prevent the surge that would overwhelm our hospital system. So it's encouraging to hear the head of the ICU at Lifespan say that we're beyond the surge. However, we're not letting our guard down. We know that especially as the weather begins to get much nicer, people are going to be outside, and we need to make sure that everyone is taking all of the precautions that they can to indeed protect themselves and protect others. So we are taking one first step to help spread people out so they can enjoy the outdoors, stretch their legs, but do so in a way that's healthy for them and safe for everyone around them. As we jumped into planning for this Slow Streets program, we also mapped the entire city, and we wanted to focus on streets and neighborhoods where we anticipate that there'll be a lot of activity. And essentially, we looked at the densest neighborhoods and the densest parts of the city. We also looked at communities that lack backyard space. So our planning department worked together to put that all together. We appreciate all the work that they did with that. At the same time, this gives us an opportunity to use one of our largest and most valuable assets, which is our streets. We want to make sure that everyone has equitable and accessible options available to them as we start to leave our house because of the nice weather and just stretch our legs and get out there. So we've identified nearly 13 miles of city streets across our city that can be used for walking, running, riding a bike, and simply being outside and being active in a way that's safe and allows for social distancing. As you know, even if we're encouraging folks to get outside and use our sidewalks are very narrow, and they bring folks in close contact with each other. So beginning this Saturday, May 2nd, we're excited to be designating 13 miles of streets as slow streets. They'll still be available for car traffic, but it will only be for local car traffic. And emergency vehicles and trash pickup, they'll still have access to these roads. But primarily, we want folks to feel comfortable spreading out and using these roads, so they'll be safe for pedestrians. It's something that many cities throughout the country have tried at this time, and my team has been in touch with many of them, and we've learned from the steps that they've taken, and we believe that we can execute on this in a way that's helpful to our residents and also safe first and foremost. In addition to that, we are going to be opening up a number of green spaces for active use and local access only. And by active use, we mean either you're continually walking, running, or biking, but you have to be moving. And for this, and they're also accessible for local access only, meaning that the parks that I'm about to mention, we're not opening up the parking lots, so you can't drive to them. But if you can walk to them, if you can ride a bike to them, then they're accessible to you. So parks such as Roger Williams Park, India Point Park, Dexter Park, Gano Street Park, Blackstone Park, Nutaconakit Park, Wampscut Park, Riverside Park, and Dunedin Park. These areas were selected because they specifically targeted high-density residential neighborhoods or places where we know that folks are using, and so we want to provide more space for people to distance themselves. This is an effort to support our residents, particularly residents that have limited backyard space. But I do want to underscore that we are not opening parking lots at the parks in these neighborhoods. The parking lots will remain closed, as will courts, fields, and playgrounds. So that we hope to open at some point in the future, but that's not a step that we can take yet, given the ongoing concern and the ongoing threat that the virus proposes. For the success of this plan, it's also equally important that residents continue to follow the current restrictions and guidelines, which means, first and foremost, please maintain physical distancing of at least 6 feet. We ask folks to limit groups to 5 family or household members. So the state restrictions on the number of people that can gather, that is still in place. Very importantly, we ask everyone to wear a face mask whenever they're outside. It could be a bandana, it could be a fabric mask, it could be anything that covers your nose and mouth. And this is for all individuals over 2 years of age. We ask everyone to stay home if you're experiencing any symptoms. And of course, if you're driving, please use a great deal of caution and drive below the speed limit of 10 miles per hour on these specific roads. We, just as we would under any circumstances, please obey all traffic laws, all traffic signals, and traffic signage. We're going to have ample signage out there so that there is no confusion, but we need everyone to play their part, and please be careful observing all of the restrictions and guidance that's in place. Another important part of this plan, and the thought behind it, is to intentionally create a space for cars to safely coexist with pedestrians and people riding bicycles. That's very possible. We've seen it done in many other places, and we're excited to try it here. Emergency vehicles, residents who live on a street, and vehicles that require access to essential services such as trash and recycling, they will still have access, so all of that will still be in operation. To keep our other residents safe, we've also reached out and activated a network of volunteers. So we're going to have volunteers out at many of these sites. They've been stepping up to the plate, and they've agreed to help us ensure that folks are following the guidelines while using our slow streets. So we're going to make use of our volunteers, and they're going to help make sure that this goes as smoothly as possible. We're going to continue to closely monitor local testing and the continued impacts of the virus on our community. And we're going to make adjustments and additional announcements on this as needed and as warranted. We hope to be on the other side of this pandemic, but we are not there yet. I encourage everyone to please continue doing your part to stop the spread. And if you'd like more details on this, please visit Providence Slow Streets and there's much more information there at www.pvdcovid19.com. Thank you, everyone.